Good evening. We're beginning with an ending, and we're doing this to give you a better idea of what's been lost. There was a car wreck in Manhattan last night, nothing remarkable, except the one person killed was Bob Simon. Simon was in his 19th season on 60 Minutes, and before that, he'd spent nearly 30 years on this program. He was among the most courageous and gifted reporters of our time, and he reminded us how good journalism can be.
I'm from the Bronx, and in fact, it took a long time before CBS would put me on the air because I had such a thick Bronx accent.
We're going to pick up an American.
The voice would become unmistakable, the perspective indispensable.
They don't know how many communists they're up against. They do know the enemy bunkers are less than 30 feet away.
Bob Simon hurried to Southeast Asia in 1971 because, as he put it, history was being made.
Civilian casualties were not announced, but it was another case of destroying a village in order to save it.
Once you've covered a war, he said, there's nothing like it. So after he left Vietnam on one of the last helicopters out, he went back to war 34 times, asking questions that were straight, simple, devastating.
General, you've got the reputation of being a first-rate Israeli officer. Why are your soldiers killing so many kids?
Simon took risks, and the people who liked to control information hated him for it. But the audience was always the wiser.
The Israelis had no idea that we were filming them. And the Israelis caught up with the Palestinian boys and just beat the hell out of them. I mean, very vicious. They were beating them with stones. We got that, we filmed it, and that created a big scandal.
During the Gulf War in 1991, Simon was captured by Iraqi forces, along with producer Peter Bluff and their crew, Roberto Alvarez and Juan Caldera.
And we eventually wound up in the secret police headquarters called the Muhabarat and treated very badly.
They were beaten, threatened with death, but released after 40 days.
As you can see, we've lost a little weight. We've aged a little, but we're fine.
Simon mastered something about television that others miss. The power is in the words, and with fine detail and sleight of hand, he delivered the truth you never saw coming.
Does anyone know her name?
No, we don't know her name.
She died quickly, this girl with no name. Sarajevo is going slowly, to the grave embarrassment of all those countries who've decided to let it happen.
War was not his only adventure. He went into the wild, often, especially in these latter years.
You want to rubber down? Go on, rubber down. An animal is never duplicitous. It's very refreshing to go see them after you've spent a lot of time interviewing politicians.
Even in the Arctic, Simon enjoyed the more civilized side of life.
The Scotch is 20 years old. The ice is about 2,000. There are strange bubbles, and the idea is rather enchanting.
Someone once asked, after all he'd seen and done, what Simon wanted to be remembered for. Irony, he said. I'd like to be remembered for irony. A little bit later in the broadcast, we're going to show you one of Bob's most beloved stories, another favorite subject of his, the triumph of the human spirit.